a little bit chaotic and messy, right? Like somebody didn't get the right instructions and turns left instead of right, or someone hits their neighbor with a palm and people get their feelings hurt, or you really want to wave a palm, but you don't want to think, does that make me look like I'm a little kid? I don't want to look like a little kid anymore, but you really want to play along. And it's a silly and fun and exuberant event. And, I really think that that's a better illustration of what was happening on Palm Sunday than some highly choreographed laser light show, super well orchestrated thing, because Palm Sunday was a caricature by design. So we're going to put a picture on screen, and thanks to our guys in the booth, we've had some really significant audio gremlins this morning that they've been working on, and so they're doing several things at once. So if you can't see that very well, this is what was called a Roman triumph. So when leaders for Rome, folks like, say, Pontius Pilate or emperors, would have some kind of conquest or success, they would have this giant Roman triumph celebration as a way of showing how great they were. It was common for the conquering hero to paint their face red to remind them of the god Jupiter and say that they had done what God wanted them to do. They'd ride chariots with a bunch of horses. There's other paintings from famous medieval artists depicting some of these where there's, elephants and all kinds of smoke and fire and crazy stuff. They really went all out. All of the Roman temples would be open that day for the celebration. People were expected to take the day off work and celebrate what was going on. And if you've read the Gospels, you might know that some of the stuff that they would celebrate was pretty antithetical to the sorts of things that Jesus and his movement were about. And so that's enough with the picture, guys. Thank you. With the palm procession, Jesus, and in Luke, just the passage just before the bit I read, is coming in from the west, so from the Jericho side, which was the lower class suburbs of Jerusalem, if you will. So if anybody is a country music fan, these are the kind of folks that would be a member of Craig Morgan's Redneck Yacht Club instead of the regular yacht club, or would be a part of Travis Tritt's country club, not the fancy country club. They were not folks who had access to the halls of power and privilege. They were just regular people who had heard about this incredible message coming in the person of Jesus and wanted to celebrate it. And how did the people that really kept them down like to celebrate? Well, with all those horses and chariots and craziness and face paint and whatever else, they went, well, we can do them one better because we have what we need here. And we'll make it biblical because we'll put Jesus on a colt that's never been ridden, which is prophesied for the Messiah, because by this point, a growing number of people thought that this incredible man from humble origins who was healing the sick and preaching a radical new way of understanding their scriptures was the Messiah. But we don't have the money for chariots, and we don't have the money for fancy trumpets and whatever else, so we'll let the kids lead the way. We'll wave some palm branches because someone just trimmed their palm tree, and so we've got plenty of those lying around, and we'll have a big old time, even though we might not have as fancy of stuff as the folks in charge. And I can't help but think that as Jesus rode through this, a handful of folks, many of them actually Pharisees, understood how incredibly courageous Jesus was being in the shadow of a Roman-controlled state doing something that was so clearly an insult to the people who were in charge, but was also a lot of fun. And that all of the people who came out and celebrated might not have known the depth of what was to come or understood the gravity of the situation, but Jesus was excited to celebrate with them as he brought his message into Jerusalem for what would be his last trip into the place as a living, breathing, old-fashioned sort of human being. But that Pharisee towards the end of the passage out of Luke, who's like, you can tell these people to stop this, knew how significant this celebration was, and that how many people who were working real hard to keep the Roman authorities' policies and procedures and guidelines followed would see that as, we need to stop this. This is more than we ought to be able to handle. This is a bigger thing than should be allowed, and it's why Jesus was so feared by the leaders as he came into Jerusalem. As we learn, as we go further into the week, more feared than actual violent criminals, because violent criminals weren't causing this kind of joy and celebration in the face of difficulty and sadness. Violent criminals and leaders of those kind of revolutions weren't inspiring the hope and desire for a different world that people saw in the folks who came to celebrate Jesus on the seedy side of town as he made his entry into the city of Jerusalem. So as we reflect on Palm Sunday, I wonder what it looks like for us to really meaningfully think about what it means to celebrate courageous love. It's easy to think about how courage gets us through hard things, but we all know somebody who's been courageous. What if when we leave this sanctuary today or when we sign off of our computers, we reach out and let them know, hey, the way you stood up and helped these people that needed help that nobody knew about is something we ought to celebrate. Can I buy you lunch sometime? Or remember that the way Jesus survived this harrowing entry time and distress was a couple of things. First of all, his prayer life was very good. As we know, he, after this, spent several different moments going away and praying on his own as the weight of things got to where it was hard for him to bear. But he also made sure, even with the people who would betray and deny him, to have one last big, exciting, and joyful celebration as they sat and shared a Passover feast together and had this big meal in which Jesus did the last thing he got to do with his friends, which was to break bread and talk about all of the courage they'd all displayed and all of the wonderful things that they'd done as followers of God as Jesus' days were numbered. You know, so often we think about Lent as this time of self-denial and sadness, and there'll be plenty of time this week to reflect on the heavy and hard stuff. But I wonder if for the next couple of days as we reflect on Palm Sunday, we might actually think about what it looks like to celebrate, to enjoy the presence of a God that loved us enough to do things as silly as let children lead him down a road waving palm branches as he rode a donkey that couldn't have behaved very well because he was the first person to ever ride the thing. That we celebrate a God who came into the midst of people who had no access to the halls of privilege and power and said, I am with you, I love you, and my life is so that you might have life, abundant and eternal. So this Sunday and next Sunday and everywhere we can, let's celebrate a God that loves us like that. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Beloved, in a minute, we'll have our offertory piece. I invite you to take that time to prayerfully consider what it means to give, whether we're thinking financially or of our time or of our talents to support the work of this church. Our mission partner for the month, so anything you mark communion, supports the ministry of the YMCA, which does a lot of work with folks that need a little bit of extra help to help teach kids how to swim, to provide meals when there's a need for meals, provide access to sports and places for kids to play that their families cannot afford. It's really a wonderful cause. I invite you to give there, and also to give to a church that does so much good work in our community. And maybe pray about what it looks like to serve. We have this discipleship pathway thing we talk about from time to time, and a big part of living our faith is finding ways to serve God and to serve neighbors. So I invite you to think what it looks like to give of yourself in that way and to give generously. Really struggling with this microphone today. A couple of announcements for you. So we've got a wonderful Holy Week lined up. So tomorrow is our second in-person gathering place since we started regathering that ministry. You have to clear a background check to be a volunteer, but if you're interested in volunteering, we're always looking for more folks who want to be a part of that. So you might not be able to help this month, but talk to me after the service and we'll get you plugged in for that. Another thing we're looking for some volunteers for is we need some communion servers on Easter Sunday. So if you're interested in that, talk to me. If I have to call people one by one, I certainly can. But our Easter Sunday services will be at 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. So the 8 a.m. service will be with our friends from Kingdom Story Fellowship, the church that's been meeting in room 101 for about a month now, and it'll be a combined contemporary service, weather permitting, out on the front steps. We'll have activities for kids back over here, and then after the service, there'll be an Easter egg hunt and some fellowship and stuff in the fellowship hall. It'll be a lot of fun. And then at 11 o'clock, we'll have our service in here that is a traditional service with brass and all kinds of wonderful music, and also communion at both services. So it's up to your Sunday school classes, if you're in Sunday school for adults, if you want to meet. We won't have kids' Sunday school, but we'll have stuff going on around here if people want to have fun. And also, as in years past, we'll have our flower cross out front all morning long with flowers. If you want to bring flowers from home to put onto it, you can do that. Easter Sunday is going to be a blast. Before Easter Sunday, we've got all kinds of other ways to connect during Holy Week. So on Tuesday, so not tomorrow but the next day, we'll have Messy Easter, our kind of spring finale of Messy Church, and it'll be from 5:30 to 7 in the fellowship hall. If you've never been to a Messy church, it's really a lot of fun. We'll tell the Easter story in a way kids can understand, do a bunch of fun crafts, eat a good dinner, sing some songs, tell the story. It'll be great. Also, per usual, we're looking for volunteers for that. So if you want to help man a craft booth or help with anything, let Stephen or I know after the service. On Good Friday, which is April the 15th, so in addition to being Good Friday, it is tax day, which feels eminently appropriate, we'll have a service of reflection on the Stations of the Cross as well as a remembrance of Maundy Thursday. So the idea is anytime between 4 and 7, you or a small group of you and your friends can come in. We'll have a table set up that I'll be sitting at in the narthex where we'll take communion together and reflect on that part of the story. And then ringing the outside of the sanctuary will be the Stations of the Cross that you'll be able to walk through self-paced. We'll have some contemplative music playing. The pews will be open for further reflection and prayer if you want to do that. It should be a really neat way to commemorate that day and to reflect on what God has done for us. The following day, on Easter Saturday at 3 p.m. in Oak Forest Park, we will have a giant Easter egg hunt. And you're invited and your friends are invited, and it's going to be a lot of fun. You might sense a recurring theme here. Always looking for more volunteers. If you want to volunteer for that, either sign up online or talk to Stephen. And on Monday after Easter, I will sleep a lot. So I think that's enough announcements for what's going on in the next couple weeks. I invite you to stand in body or in spirit as we sing our closing hymn together.
Tell me the stories of Jesus. I love to hear things I would ask you to tell me if he were here. Sing by the wayside, fields of the sea, stories of Jesus, tell them to me. First let me hear how the children stood round his knee.
benediction's pretty straightforward, even though it sounds like an echo because of the mask. Go out and celebrate a God that loves you enough to be cause for celebration and courage wherever you may go. Go in peace. Oh, I have one more announcement. If you have a palm branch, there's a bucket of water in the back of the sanctuary, and if you stick it in there, that's a better place for it than laying under a pew. So we would really appreciate if you do that on your way out. Now you can go in peace.